when there were like 5 or 6 links and about 10 universities active in that field, people there thought, okay, it's good to have to form something here, so we are actually talking as one group to the US side. They started that, and that group of 3 in a short time became about 10 people, and those 10 people basically formed RIPE, what is called RIPE, at 1992. And they wrote down what is RIPE, what is the community. They thought, okay, we should build a community around that because we are coordinating the stuff and we need to be able to make sure that needs of everyone is seen. And actually they were very smart from the very beginning because they aimed for something which is not a multi-stakeholder model, but basically a very inclusive, open and transparent community, and say anyone off the street should be able to come in and contribute to the policy. So they formed that group, which is called RIPE. Basically at the same time, similar events were happening in the Asia-Pacific region, which ended up forming APNIC. APNIC and RIPE are almost at the same age. It's like a few months difference in between. So 92 was the time where the communities were forming. A few years after that, when they had these communities, they figured out for the work that they have to do, for the actions that they have to take, they actually need organizations. And this is about 97, 98. Basically organizations as secretariat. That's where RIPE NCC as a company was born. At the same time, ARIN was actually formed with kind of similar principles. I will get into that, how ARIN is governed. And APNIC was formed, and then later on, LACNIC and AFRINIC. LACNIC is for Latin America, AFRINIC is for Africa. But it started with basically 3. ARIN for North America, and it's just Canada, US, and a lot of small or different countries in actually Central and Latin America. I think most of it is based on language. So you have countries, almost any country that speaks English or any economy that uses English is in ARIN in that region. And the rest goes to LACNIC. So APNIC, LACNIC, and RIPE were basically having the board in 2 regions. And if you wanted address space based on where your legal address is, where your legal register, you would go to your local, your RIR, regional internet registry, and ask for addresses. This, as I said, this was expanded then with the addition of AFRINIC and LACNIC. Going to the model that they work, all the RIRs, all 5 of them, so these 5 organizations, all of them share same values, which is inclusiveness, openness, transparency. All of RIRs really strive to actually, especially inclusiveness is key. They really try to be neutral, especially again between their members. And the idea is, and that's how RIRs work, they get resources from IANA, or PTI nowadays. So they give the block of addresses IANA assigns to RIPE, and then based on community policies which is developed in that region, the addresses are then given to members or whoever needs them. You can imagine in these 5 different regions there are 5 different modes of policy development, but in many there are many similarities in between. Talking about ARIN governance specifically, ARIN has 2 boards which are governing the organization. The organization has about, I think, 65, 70 staff at the moment. They have a board of trustees, which is 7 members. One of them is the CEO of ARIN. And the board of trustees, which is again elected by the community from members, is in charge of business and financial health of the organization. It doesn't do much about policy, or basically nothing about policy. They also have ARIN AC, ARIN Advisory Council, which is 15 members, if I remember correctly, and they are basically advising the board and ARIN organization on how to implement policy. Similar structure exists in other RIRs. Each one of them is clearly documented, and basically people in that region design and decide policies that govern how the resources are allocated or taken back or transferred to other regions. And this, especially in the past few years, this has been a very hot topic because IPv4, as you might have heard, that's the original series of IP addresses which was introduced when basically IP, the Internet Protocol, was invented. is running out. There is a basically newer technology, that's invented 20 years ago, but is still not deployed well, IPv6. But because IPv4 was running out, and it is still the de facto standard used on the internet, these policies came to spotlight because they govern how you can get resources and how you can get additional resources or how you can transfer them. And a market was created because basically RARs are running out of addresses. So I think in short that wraps it up. And then we can continue that in questions.
Great. And thank you for bringing up IPv4 and IPv6. That came up previously, so everybody knows what you're talking about. and yeah, this is where it's a very key issue at this moment. Alejandra, you're going to talk about CCNSOs and the interesting fact that they also existed before ICANN, right?
Yes, exactly. May I have my slides, please? Muchas gracias.
¿Tienen remoto? Sorry, you're in control now.
I'll try. Thank you. Let's see. So, what do you want? Okay, thank you. So, let's start with the acronyms again. Just to be clear, the CcTD stands for Country Code Top Level Domain. And in particular, the CCNSO is the body within the ICANN ecosystem that groups them all. And a CcTD, it's a two-letter top-level domain. These two letters are defined in the ISO 3166. And ISO stands for International Standards Organization. So every country gets one. This is, again, speaking of two letters as in the Latin alphabet. We call them also ASCII domain names. As said before, every country has one. Mine would be .gd, in Canada .ca, and so on and so forth. You can see also there's a very nice illustration of country codes all over the world, and the size it's due to the number of registrations that there is in that particular country. So if some are bigger, it's because, well, they have more domain names. Continuing a little bit there. So I think we've been talking about ICANN a little bit all over the place during the conversation, so I wanted to have this nice picture so you can see who are involved in ICANN, in the ICANN board. The CCNSO in particular, that it's with the red circle and the arrow. It's just to mention that we have 2 seats at the ICANN board, and there are other organizations along that particular picture that you see. You can see also, well, there's the president and CEO of the ICANN board. There's the GNSO for the generic name supporting organizations that Keith already mentioned, and the ASO for the address supporting organization. Then it's us, the nominating committee at large, and all the other liaisons to the board. Continuing, and I'm hoping it's working. Yes, it is. Because I don't see it. So why is this CCN so important? It is important because it provides a structure for CcTD's to group together and do, how do I say this, like community work, to help each other, to come and tell what are your best practices, and maybe some others can adopt them. It's a very familiar place to share information and to get help. So it's a very supporting organization in itself. There are approximately 250 different country codes. And as I said before, every country territory gets one, and they can join the CCNSO whenever they want. It's not mandatory. And just to make an observation that IANA or ICANN, it's not responsible or not in the business on determining what is a country or not. That's on the United Nations. And whomever the United Nations names as a country gets a country code, and then they get into the root zone. I mentioned that I was speaking about the 2 letters top-level domains, that they are the Latin letters or the ASCII top-level domains, because there are also some internationalized domain names that are also for country codes. There are currently 61 that represent 41 countries and/or territories, and we are looking forward now to make policy for them to be able to join the CCNSO as members. And again, IDN stands for Internationalized Domain Name. And again, why is the CCNSO important? It was also mentioned earlier, and this information comes from the VeriSign Domain Name Industry Brief. There are approximately 352 million domain name registrations, and approximately 45% of it comes from CcTD's. And from the top 10 largest TLDs, that's top-level domain registries, 7 are country code top-level domains. So that's why also it is very relevant. And for you to have an idea, currently the CCNSO membership is 172 countries, and they're divided in the ICANN geographic regions. We have 5 in North America, 27 in the Latin American and the Caribbean region, 46 in Europe, 56 in Asia Pacific, and 38 in Africa. The CCNSO membership is completely free, voluntary. Whomever wants to join can join. The benefits of being a CCNSO member is to be able to participate in electing, the representatives of the CCNSO Council, also the representatives on the ICANN board, and approving PDPs, that stands for
Policy development.
Thank you. Policy development processes, and sometimes you get caught in the acronyms.
Sometimes.
Not always. And but to participate in general in the work of the CCNSO, you don't need to be a member. Mainly be from a CcTD, join a working group, and that's that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Down the hierarchy, CCNSO being a group of country code names, and so we're going to go to Josh. Sarah.
Wow. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, always.
Does this thing have a laser pointer too?
Yeah.
Maybe.
One moment.
We got a blank.
It's all good.
It did this.
The show must go on.
It overhit the.
It will come back.
This is a steamy group.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
I can start talking. Yeah? All right. Cool. We'll catch up when we get in. So, yeah, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for hanging in there. It's getting towards the end of the day. And you're a fidgety bunch. I can see you're ready to go stretch your legs and get out of here pretty soon, I think. You can definitely tell we're in the late afternoon. I don't know if we did a territorial acknowledgement earlier. I didn't get here right at 9 a.m. So I just wanted to quickly acknowledge that we're gathered here today on the unceded traditional territories of the Ganungi-Haga Nation. We all come together, we make connections, we talk about the future of the internet, we talk about the future of society and how technology shapes it. I think it's just good to take a moment to pause and think about the folks we're sharing this land with, the Indigenous peoples with whom we now share Montreal. And so I just wanted to make sure that that acknowledgement was made today. Okay, so who's CIRA? CIRA operates Canada's country code top-level domain, the .ca domain. We're a member-driven member-based not-for-profit with a mandate from Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada to manage the .ca domain on behalf of all Canadians. We have, I think, 2.8 million domains under management and 15,000 members from coast to coast to coast. Our members participate in our elections, in our governance. We have 12 seats on our board, 4 become available each year. Some folks in the room have run for that board, some folks have been board members like Marita. You know, we really are driven by the people that constitute our community and who come together to help shape the future of .ca. Our organization took responsibility for .ca, I think in the year 2000. In 1999, then Assistant Deputy Minister Michael Binder from then Industry Canada wrote a letter saying that .ca would be transferred from the folks who were managing it. I think kind of at first as volunteers, later I'm not sure what the relationship was, but our John Postal was a guy named John Demko at the University of British Columbia out west. Hey, look at that. Where are we? Slide 3. All right. Industry Canada penned a letter, and in it they said, the .ca domain space is a key public resource, helping to promote the development of electronic commerce in Canada, and it is it is important to our country's future social and economic development. I think that's still true today. The internet's changed a lot, but I think the domain name system and the .ca, and the .ca top level domain are still immensely important. So as a result, our core responsibility is to ensure that your devices are directed to the right websites. Essentially, we function as one of the phone books of the internet by operating our own domain name system, or DNS. You've heard a lot about the DNS today. This means we're constantly working to ensure the stability and security of .ca and the domain name technologies that underlie it, so that you can find your favorite websites on the internet. Now, I just want to point out quickly that as a registry, we don't sell domain names to the end user. You don't come to Sierra and we sell you, NASIG.ca for ourselves. We work with a bunch of registrar partners like GoDaddy, Rebel, all the big guys sell .ca's through there. So you can think of us a bit like Coca-Cola. You don't buy Coca-Cola directly from Coke, you buy it from 7-Eleven, Walmart, whoever. Sierra's best known for operating the .ca domain, but we do a lot more. We've made it our mission to build products and services that help build a better online Canada. Some of these examples are we offer world-class DNS services to domain operators around the world. We offer enterprise-level cybersecurity products such as our DNS firewall service. And we invest in Canada's internet by donating over $1 million a year to community groups, not-for-profits, academics, people who are trying to make the internet in Canada better. We fund infrastructure projects, we fund digital literacy workshops, we fund all sorts of stuff. Now there's a lot more that Sierra does. I haven't talked about our work on internet exchange points or the regional IGF that we help organize each year, the Canadian Internet Governance Forum, but I think this kind of gives you a sense of who Sierra is and what we do. So, where do we fit in this world of internet governance? As the operator of Canada's CcTLD, we think it's very important to work with the international internet governance community to help promote Canadian values in the governance of the web. As you've heard today, keeping the internet's architecture running is a pretty big job. It involves network operators, different level of governments, content providers all coming together. And we are active in a lot of those forums. I know you've all heard a lot of acronyms today, and I know it's getting late in the day, but I'm going to throw a couple more at you real fast. Our staff at Sierra participate in the Internet and Engineering Task Force, the Internet Governance Forum, or the IGF, the Internet and Jurisdiction Network, or the INJ, the American Registry for Internet Numbers, or ARIN, and a number of other multi-stakeholder initiatives, including some from the Internet Society, like the Canadian multi-stakeholder process for enhancing IoT security. I don't actually think there's an acronym for that, thankfully, but it's a mouthful. And of course, through ICANN, we're part of the CcNSO. My boss, I think, is vice chair, yeah, alongside you, yeah, I think, yeah, cool. And I think has been the chair in the past.
Yes.
So I think that kind of brings our overview of CIRA to a close for now. But I think there's one thing that makes CIRA kind of unique in the internet governance space, and I'm going to wrap because I have 20 seconds. We really put our public interest mandate at the center of everything we do. We really take our commitment to manage.ca on behalf of Canadians seriously, and we're constantly trying to reinvest our resources and our energy into building a better online Canada. Whether that's our granting program, our cybersecurity products, what we do and say in the international fora we participate in, we really try to promote Canadian values in the governance of the internet, and have a great time doing it. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there.
Thank you, John. Suffice it to say that all country code operators are not the same. There's a huge variety and difference of way the country codes are operated, and Alejandra is going to speak a little bit about that later. There's some really interesting differences in that world. And now we're going to have Pablo. You got a few slides?
Yes, right? I have a slide, and I have the power. So while that comes up, once again, I'm Pablo Rodriguez, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the Executive Vice President for the Puerto Rico Top Level Domain, the company that manages the domain name .pr in Puerto Rico. We became in existence in 1989, and just recently we celebrated the 30th anniversary, along with several events that we celebrated in San Juan, Puerto Rico. In addition, we also celebrate